friends, welcome back to my channel. Here today to chat a little bit about the books that I read in August. I'm going to try to make this a really brief video because some of these books I have spoken about in other places, so I won't go into too much detail about them. But I did want to share with you the books that I read because I read some really fantastic things in August. It was Women in Translation Month, and the book that we picked for the Run Write Reads book club was Women in Translation. Tituba, Black Witch of Salem by Maryse Conde. I filmed an entire review about this book, so you can go check that out. But very briefly, it is about a young woman living in the 1600s. She starts off her life in Barbados, and because of a relationship that she gets involved in, she is moved to Massachusetts in America in the 1600s. She is someone who learned a little bit of connection with the natural world, and so she has the ability to heal, and she also has a connection with the supernatural world. And because of those gifts, she is accused of being a witch in the Salem witch trials in Massachusetts. And this is a little bit about her story, her character development as she goes through life. And I thought the author did a really brilliant job of capturing the history of the Caribbean as well as America. Some of the things that were happening in people's personal lives. We're getting a little bit about the lives and the diversity of the Caribbean experience. A little discussion about the Christians and the Jews in America during the 1600s. And there's a lot of history. Maryse Conde says it's a little bit of a parody of the times, because she does also add these other characters from literature, but also some real historical figures in here. And so it's a fantastic read. Highly recommend this if you haven't yet read it. Maybe you don't want to watch my full review, but I hope this whet your appetite to read it. So aside from that, I also picked up some other Women in Translation reads. I read How to Order the Universe by Maria Jose Ferrada. This is a candidate for the BookTube Prize translated fiction this year, and so I read it and I really enjoyed it. It's a little bit of a young girl growing up in, I think it's Chile, and we see the relationship between her and her father growing as there is dissolution of her parents' marriage. Her father's a traveling salesman, and he allows his daughter to be a truant from school so she can go on these jobs with him. And he uses her to help him with his transactions with his customers, because who can resist an adorable child, right? And it's a little bit of how not just the father but other salesmen use her, and how she's able to learn a little bit about the world because of this other thing that she does. And I love the innocence that the author gives this girl as she's learning about the world. It's like you can see the world through her eyes. She is ordering the world based on what she has learned. So her father is a hardware salesman, and she starts to order the universe through the items in the catalog. And it's a little bit of an exploration of how what we're exposed to teaches us. So there's also a supernatural element because of the issues that were happening with the dictatorship in Chile at the time. And so we see a little bit of a representation of that hardship, that struggle, that political crisis being lived out through the characters. And so I really enjoyed this one. It's the only book that I have read from the translated fiction for the BookTube Prize. So I don't know how the other books stack up, but this was pretty interesting. This was pretty good. Aside from that, also read Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred Taylor, and I have a physical copy. I just don't know what I did with it. And Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry was published in 1976, the year I was born. So it's really cool to be reading a book that's as old as I am. And this was really interesting too. It's about a little girl and her siblings. They're growing up in the South in the United States, and you know, it's in the middle of the 1900s. So there is racism, there's discrimination, there's segregation, and it's a little bit of their experience and understanding of the world in which they live, but also their refusal to accept their situation. So we see, you know, what kids do about their situation when they're not, when there aren't adults around. Because this is a children's book. You can tell it's a children's book because you see these kids, even though their parents are very present figures in their life, you see them taking control of their situation. You see them doing things for themselves. They're not always running to their parents to complain. They are a strong band of unity. Even when the little kids want to snitch, the older kids, they all kind of rally together, and we see them doing things about the injustice that they feel. So we see what they experience. Black kids in a segregated school in the mid-1900s in the United States would receive very substandard resources. So we see them getting like the really used books that came from the white schools, and tables showing what condition the book had to be in before it would go to the school for the Negroes. And the fact that the kids who go to the white school have a bus that takes them to school, whereas the black kids have to walk despite the weather. And not just that, you know, it's pedestrians versus riders in a bus, but also we see how the bus driver, a bigot himself, how he kicks up dust and mud on the black kids as they're walking to school, just to make their lives miserable. And then we see what these children do about it. There's a lot of hardship and struggle that's described in the book, but I also love the values and the very wholesome family that the author presents. And yeah, there's a lot to love, and it's not stereotypical. It's not like all the white people are bad and all the black people are good. There are definitely surprises along the way, and I love the interracial relationships that are presented here. So yeah, really like this book. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred Taylor is a part of a series, so now I want to read more of that series, and there's more to read, so that's great. Other books that I read The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. This is a candidate for the BookTube prize that I'm judging, so I can't discuss it too much, but I'll say very briefly it is a novel about transplants and movement. We start off with following a couple and a plant and some other animals in Cyprus, in Greece, in Nicosia. I still don't know how to pronounce that word. I have to find out. And then we have them moving, both the people and the plants. And we also have descriptions of the animals moving. And it's a little bit of a discussion of push and pull, why people or why species leave, and what happens to them when they go to their new homeland, and whether or not they're able to return, but what they pass on to their offspring. More discussion when I do my wrap-up and my comparison of the books for the BookTube prize. Then I focused on some translated fiction, right? So I read a short book called Happening by Annie Ernaux, and she's a French writer. So I thought that this was a novel, but it's not. It's more of a memoir, but a slightly different memoir than what I'm accustomed to reading, I suppose, because it is a woman writing about an event that happened, or a part of her life that happened decades earlier. And she's using what she wrote about the event to kind of describe and to fuel her narrative now. And, you know, you think about how our memories might change based on our new experiences, or how what we want will impact what we remember of the event. So this young woman, as a young woman, she gets pregnant and she doesn't want to be pregnant. So she's trying to obtain an abortion, but there is no way to obtain an abortion legally in this time. It's happening in the mid-1900s. And so it's a little bit about her attempt to expel this pregnancy from her body and what that looks like, how it impacts her life, how it impacts the relationships that she has with her friends, and you know, some of the lies that she has to tell. How society would view her as a young unwed mother, but also how society refuses to allow her to have an abortion if she wants one. It's a little bit of the complexities of that life, the life of a young woman not having jurisdiction over her body and not being able to make the choices that she wants. And you know, there's some really difficult things that happen in this book. It made me, and I guess maybe that's why I wanted it to be a novel. I thought it was a novel, but it's not. It's a memoir. And so that was a little astounding to get to about 2/3 of the book and realize that this was someone's real life story I was reading about. So highly recommend this one, Happening by Annie Ernaux. If you're looking for a short translated book to read at some point, it doesn't have to be Women in Translation Month to read Women in Translation. So there's that. Other than that, I read a lot of books about women and having babies this month, apparently. So I got The Life of the Mind by Christine Smallwood. This was a gift from publishers Penguin Random House. So thank you, Penguin Random House, for sending me this one. I chose it because I thought the main character would be a little similar. Someone that I could identify with, but not quite. It is about a young woman living in New York City, and she's a recent graduate from grad school, and she's trying to figure out her career, and she is in a relationship, she gets pregnant, and it's a little bit about what happens because of that pregnancy, how her life changes, not necessarily the physical space of her life, more of her mental space, more mental changes, and it's how she's reconciling with what has happened with her body, and how she obsesses about the things in her life, the relationships that she's a part of, her spouse, her mentor from grad school, her friends or rivals, as you may see them, former classmates from school, and also the relationship with her mother and this young woman that her mother has chosen almost as a surrogate daughter, almost replacing this main character in that relationship. But it's also how this character ruminates over really seemingly trivial things, but you realize that these are the little things that make up a life. So I thought there's a lot of navel gazing, but it was also really interesting navel gazing and also really introspective at various points. A little bit about therapy, and yeah, a lot happened in this book, but also a lot didn't happen. It was more of the mental processing. So still not sure how I'm rating this book, but I really enjoyed it. I didn't love the main character, but I felt like I understood her after a while, so I guess that's good, right? So I got Summer Sisters by Judy Blume. I got this from the publishers, Penguin Random House as well, so thank you, Penguin Random House, for sending this one to me. And this was really interesting. It's following two girls who meet at age 12 when the more popular, richer girl invites the other girl, her classmate, to spend the summer with her and her father and her brother on Martha's Vineyard. And every year after that, they keep going back to spend the summer together. And so they're summer sisters, even though they already have other siblings who they are not close with. These two chosen sisters, a little bit of how their friendship deepens despite the initial misgivings, how their friendship deepens and survives really, really emotionally trying times. Their paths diverge, their physical paths split, but their friendship, their sisterhood remains. And it's a little bit about the things that try these two sisters, right? These two summer sisters. So like I said, we start following these characters when they're 12 and we watch them develop. We get a little bit of a nostalgic feeling as we're reading this book because Judy Blume really centers what is happening, is what the characters talk about, what they obsess about. So she's showing the passage of time but through these characters, and it's interesting. She also focuses a little bit or a lot on things that may seem like taboo topics based on what age you are. And I've always loved that about her writing. It gives you something to kind of relate to when there aren't a lot of other books that discuss those things, really personal things. So it felt like you were getting intimate with these characters, even learning things that you didn't want to know. But yeah, really enjoyed this one. I also read The Door by Magda Szabo, which, man, what a fantastic read. Magda Szabo is a Hungarian writer, so this is another translated book that I read in August, and it's about a woman who's a writer, and she's narrating the story of her life as she meets and interacts with this woman, Maryse, who becomes her housekeeper when her writing career starts to take off again and she needs help in her domestic life. So both the narrator and her husband are writers with varying degrees of success, and this woman, Maryse, who has this very colored and checkered past, an older woman who seems to know everybody's business, and she gets to decide whether she will work for you or not. It's not that you hire her. She decides that she will take you on as a client, and they get her to come into their household to work. But the narrator starts to fixate on her and she wants to learn more about this woman. So she spends a lot of her time trying to uncover Maryse's secrets. And so we are learning Maryse's secrets as well. The author does something that I really enjoy when I see it happening in books. She gives you a little bit of a flash forward into how the story ends, and then gives you a way to pick through the details as you learn what happens. I find that to be fascinating when authors do it, and it's done here and done really well, because we fixate on Maryse as the narrator does. And even though the narrator should be the main character, Maryse is definitely, she's a completely fascinating woman. Her life is not as she relates it. She has these secrets, like she doesn't allow anyone to come into her house. Could come on the porch and there's a smell of disinfectant that's coming under the door, I guess, and nobody knows what's inside. They have suspicions, and isn't that how it always happens? So love this book. Love this book. Want to read more from Magda Szabo now. So yeah, I read an e-copy of that from my library, and I'm pretty sure I will purchase a copy myself at some point. So yeah, those are the books that I read in August. Would love to hear from you if you've read any of them and have some thoughts. Or, you know, if you want to share with me what were your reading highs and lows for the month of August. Would love to know if you have recommendations of books that were translated from other languages to English, written by female authors. Share that with me, with other viewers, so we can go pick up some of those books and give them some love as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back soon with another video, and I hope you'll join me for it. Until then, happy reading. Bye.